courage and the wisdom and the strength always to seek the truth, come whence it may, cost what it will. Amen. Please be seated. To Kill a Mockingbird, or To Kill a Mockingbird, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, It's a Wonderful Life. Maybe your favorite, the Glenn Miller Band, Frank Sinatra, Elvis, Carole King. They are all oldies but goodies. We know those old movies and singers and songs by heart, and everyone smiles when they come on. We know every line and every ending, yet we still watch to the end to see if it will still turn out the same way. They are oldies but goodies. Just like the gospel lesson we have this morning. Our gospel is anything but new to most of us. We know it by heart. We've even named a law about it in our country. A man gets robbed and beat up and left for dead in a ditch. We shake our heads when we see the priest and the Levite walk by on the other side. And we know that in the end, this Samaritan guy gets called good because he stops and helps this fellow in the ditch. This Samaritan, an unsuspecting man, an outcast from the wrong side of the tracks, he is the one to stop and pay for the man in the ditch to be made well. It is a story told in a way that makes us quickly point to the priest and lazy good-for-nothings, and then rise quickly to praise the Samaritan. The priests and the Levites could have had good excuses, after all. They were headed to the temple to fulfill their vocation and calling. And in order to serve in the temple, they had to be clean. So they couldn't have touched a corpse. They had an obligation to God and to God's people to do what they were supposed to do that day. We all have roles in our lives, whether we're parents responsible for the safety of children, or children in charge of caring for elderly parents. Some of us are doctors or nurses or first responders who have less flexible schedules. We have places to go, people depending on us. Who are we to judge whether those who pull over to help people on the side of the road are being foolish and neglecting their obligations, or acting like the Good Samaritan? My friend and New Testament scholar Dylan Brewer says that the point of our gospel is not that Samaritans can be nice and that priests and Levites can be jerks. The point comes as Jesus turns the lawyer's question on its head. Who was a neighbor to this injured person? A question the lawyer can't answer himself without putting himself in the place of the half-dead guy in the ditch. The question, as the lawyer asks it, is one that seeks the limits of compassion. Who am I supposed to help? The question that Jesus invites him to ask is one that seeks actively to expand or erase all of the limits. You may remember that real-life story several years ago about the guy in New York City who was waiting with his daughters for the subway train to come. And another fellow on the subway platform has a seizure and falls into the tracks. And this guy named Wesley Autry, jumps in after him trying to save him from the tracks, but the train is coming too fast, and Wesley just lays down on top of the man, hoping that the train will go over them. And it does, just barely scraping the hairs on his head. He's proclaimed as the Good Samaritan, the national hero. He makes the Today Show, nonetheless. But he had two daughters waiting there on the platform. And yet he was moved with compassion. He did what he could to save the man having the seizure. Things like this are so remarkable to us because they are so far beyond what most of us think we would be able to do. Like the priest and the Levite, most of us would find an easy way to pass by on the other side, or stare down in horror at the man who fell in the tracks. It simply is not in our nature to forget ourselves and risk everything for someone else. We don't simply decide to move ourselves to compassion. Something, some experience, some movement has to change us. When I read the story of the Good Samaritan, I usually just end up feeling guilty. I feel guilty for passing daily the beggars with their crumpled up cardboard signs. Guilty when I hear another story of someone else shot in our supposed Charm City streets. Guilty when I see rampant racism in our country, no matter your state. Guilty for resting comfortably in my air-conditioned office where I have a great job with full health care benefits, including dental, and a house where there is more than enough food. I make myself feel better when we put our check in the offering plate every week and bring some more groceries for the CARES food pantry. Now, guilt is not a bad motivator, and one day I'm sure I will use that method from this pulpit. You still have to bring your food pantry donations. And money makes all good nonprofits go round. We must keep voting and writing our checks. But I maintain that there has to be some reason that Jesus chose a Samaritan to be the neighbor that helped the guy in the ditch. The Samaritan was an outsider. The last person the lawyer would have expected or wanted to help him in the ditch. I wonder what this story would mean if the Samaritan is Jesus and we are the ones stuck in the ditch. What if we are the ones that need the healing and the person ready to help is Jesus? When we are looking for the cure, the person who has the cure may not be the person we are expecting. Jesus comes to us through unexpected people, in surprising places, in astonishing ways. I don't know about you, but I'm not programmed to ask for help. I think I can do it all by myself. Volunteer recruitment is the hardest part of my vocation. In many ways, because I want to do the way things I want to do them. But I love doing it all, but I can't, and neither can you. I have realized, though, that when I do ask for help, when I'm vulnerable enough to say I can't do it, I always get a glimpse of Jesus. And then that thing happens that transforms my heart. Not by giving something, not by doing something, but by receiving a gift. That is what this parable is really all about. If Jesus merely wants us to go out and do as the Good Samaritan did, then we're all in trouble. None of us can do it alone. None of us can simply decide to move ourselves to that level of compassion and selflessness. Though we may know the right thing to do in any given situation, it is no guarantee that we would actually go out and do it. Being a good neighbor takes more than a change of mind. It takes a change of heart. And so, driving to church this morning, the rest of the sermon changed, so apologies for that, but that's a good thing because it was the Spirit. Sometimes we're the person stuck in the ditch and we need Jesus to help us. But I also think, and I'm feeling lately as an American, as a member of the Episcopal Church, as a member of Nativity, as a member of the world, that some of us all together may be stuck in the ditch helping someone in the ditch. Does that make sense? We are trying our hardest by being here, by writing our checks, by bringing our food donations, by praying. But sometimes it still feels that we are stuck. The good news is we're stuck together. We are in this together. But I think and I believe that we need to keep praying harder. And we need to be listening to one another. And we need to be sticking as communities to other communities. Because there are problems with the gifts that we've been given that we can change the outcome to. If we only listen and ask for help. We cannot do it all by ourselves. We are vulnerable alone. But together we are strong. And Jesus will help us get out of the ditch and bring the others with us as well. So pray with me, if you will, this week, that we might find that strength and hear that wisdom in what we should do to the least of these. Amen. Please stand as you are able as we affirm our faith in the words of the Nicene Creed. We believe in one God, the Father and maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten of the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten without made, of one being with the Father, through whom all things were made. For us and for our salvation, he came down from heaven. By the power of the Holy Spirit, he became incarnate from the Virgin Mary, and was made man. For our sake, he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He suffered death and was buried. On the third day, he rose again, in accordance with Scriptures. He ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have an end. We believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son. With the Father and the Son, he is worshipped and glorified. He has spoken through the prophets. We believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. We acknowledge one baptism for forgiveness of sins. We look for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. Amen.
Let us kneel for the prayers of the people, found on page 328.